Hello, teachers and administrators. This is an overview of how I went about creating the SAT program for not only Sandburg, but the district in general. When I first started, I didn't have much of an idea of how the SAT was structured and how it was built. So when I first started, I took our 2019 data and I broke it up into, three tiers of questions. The tier one questions were the questions that our kids should get. These are the must get questions. Tier two were the questions that we could get, but the format might throw them off a little bit. So I'd put it in a 60-40 range in terms of students answering it correctly. And tier three were the ones that the kids just are not going to get. So when I broke it up and I wrote down all the concepts and labeled them in tiers, right? I noticed there were 41 tier one questions and 11 tier two questions. So when we looked at it, or when I looked at it, our goal was to get students to master 30 questions to reach that 530 benchmark. That 530 is our benchmark. That's 30 questions out of the 58. So our goal is basically to get kids to score 75% or better on 8 of the concepts above. Okay. Now, that's when I first started. So now I had to take it a step further and learn more about the test. And I actually went to College Board's website and I noticed right away that the test is actually broken up into 4 domains: heart of algebra, problem solving and data, and then passport to advanced math, and then additional topics in math. And within each of these domains, it breaks it up into standards within the domains, right? Now, I kind of wish I knew this when I first started because it would have made my life a little easier. So when I first started, my goal was, well, let's make a bank of questions for each domain and label them to standards. So what I did is I went to Mastery Manager and I used the 2019 exam along with the practice exams that College Board released. There's 10 of them. And I entered 447 questions in here. Now, just entering 447 questions is one thing, but how could a teacher create practice exams or post assessments to break it down by standard? So what I did is I broke it up into the 4 domains, right? You have heart of algebra, passport to advanced math, problem solving and data, and then additional topics in math. So what I did is I created these folders. So this folder has all the additional topics in math, and it's broken up by the calculator versions and the non-calculator questions. Okay. But again, taking it a step further, right? How do we know, right, what standard each question is linked to? So what I did is, if I want to create an assessment using the item bank, I attached every question to one of the standards within the domain. So when you're in heart of algebra and you want all the questions linked to the linear function standard, all a teacher has to do is click on standard, go to SAT Math Standards, and they can look. These are all of the standards that have been inserted into Mastery Manager. So if a teacher wanted to find a question on linear functions, right, build a linear function, they want all the questions linked to this standard, I went ahead and linked every question to a standard. So now it takes all of the questions that are linked to that standard and it separates them. So a teacher can now look at what questions they want to include. So this is a heart of algebra standard 3 question. It tells you that it's calculator based, right? And it also tells them what practice test it came from and what question it is on that practice exam. So this allows teachers to create assessments, right, real quickly based on standards. So if they want to find what questions are linked to a lesson in their current unit, they can go right here, enter the standard, and it'll pull those questions linked to that standard. Okay, so now how could I use the domains and the standards to create this course. When Derek Smith and Dr. Tyrell, when we met, they really wanted something that was user friendly for kids and basically could be used in a study hall or for teachers. So what I did is I took all of those standards and I created lessons. Okay, so this is an example of the Heart of Algebra module. In each module, there are anywhere from 8 to 13 lessons, and each lesson is broken up by topic. So this is like lesson 1 in Heart of Algebra. Now, not only does it say it's lesson 1, but it talks about what topic and then what standard from Heart of Algebra it's linked to. Okay, what it does then is it goes through a power review, right? Followed by practice questions for the students to work on. So I'm currently in the home screen for the students. All right, so this is a student view. So when a student is working on the SAT course, you can see this is lesson 1, lesson 2, lesson 3, lesson 4, and so on. So when a student clicks on, say, lesson 6, okay, this will take the students to, sometimes when it's busy, you got to refresh it. But what it takes the students to is an Ed Puzzle video. So what I did is I created a video for each lesson. And then I embedded it in Ed Puzzle. So now when a kid hits play, right, they get a brief review of the topic, okay, and then it leads them into practice SAT questions. So now, once a student watches that video, right, these bubbles represent all the practice questions in the video. So they can then go, if they click on the bubble, the question in the video pops up, they take a chance at answering it. So I'm going to answer B for that question. And if they get it wrong, when they click continue, it actually explains the problem they just attempted. Okay? Then if they get it correct, they can just click on the next question, attempt it, right? If they get it wrong, they click continue. If they get it right, they can go right to the next question. So that's what the students basically get. And if you look, they have access to 13 Heart of Algebra lessons, right? They have all these problem solving and data lessons, right? And then the Passport to Advanced Math lessons, okay? So how does this benefit teachers then? Well, if I go to the teacher view, what the teachers can do is when they click on, in their view, on their Canvas page, when they click on Heart of Algebra, what it does is it pops up with the student data. So right away, I can see what students watched the lesson, right? What students attempted the lessons, right? So you can see this student watched 100% of the video and got a 71% on the questions in the video, right? So if a teacher clicks on a student, they can see right away this student watched this part of the video, 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 right? But they got this one wrong and they didn't watch the end of the video. So it actually tells them what they watched and didn't watch, and it actually tells you as a teacher what questions they got right or wrong. Okay? So not only is this user-friendly for kids, it's really user-friendly for teachers to track the students. Okay? So this is one thing I had a chance to put together. Now, so once I created that, and then I had to train the teachers, I was surveying teachers to ask them, how familiar are you with the test? One, do you know how it was created? Are you familiar with the 4 domains and what standards are within domain? And do you even have an idea of what benchmarks Sandberg's trying to reach? What was our data? What benchmarks are we, trying to improve, and where are we at? So when I created the teacher training presentation, I basically broke down how the test was created, how, what College Board used to create the exam. And it was pretty interesting as a math teacher to hear they focus on the things or the concepts that are extremely important for all students to succeed in a college level math course. And I thought that was really interesting. But then how they redesigned it, where their focus was, the elements, how they test multiple choice and graded response, and then eventually the 4 domains. Okay. Then we talked about the SAT assessment suite, right? What is the difference between the test that's given to the PSAT 8 students in the fall of their 8th grade year to the difference between the PSAT 10 and the SAT itself? So I talked about the different amount of questions and the amount of time on each test, and then the number of questions from each domain on each of the tests. So PSAT 8 and 9 is primarily heart of algebra and problem solving and data, whereas if PSAT 10, you get an increase of the passport to advanced math, right? And then eventually, like when we look at the topics in the additional math topics, right away you see there's only 6 questions on the actual test, right? So all of our energy should be focused on these 3 domains, and the icing on the cake is the additional math topics, right? Then I talked about how the reading rigor increases each year and the inclusion of multiple choice and graded response questions. Then I broke it down to where Sandberg's data is at, what our benchmarks are, and I actually talked about, in order for students to master this, right, what areas do they need to focus on, right? So Sandberg's goal was to get 55% of the juniors to achieve a 530 or better on the 2020 exam. When I met with Derek Smith a lot, we talked about the kids that we need to reach in order to meet that goal are the approaching kids, the kids who are right on the bubble, right? And when you really take the kids that are on the bubbles, these are kids that have A's or B's, maybe high C's in some of our Math 3 courses, even Math 1 or 2 courses, that the format of the test or maybe a little bit of anxiety is keeping them from reaching that benchmark. So we talked and strategized a lot about how we can reach these approaching kids. It's unfortunate COVID-19 put a damper on our plans for the study hall. But overall, I think in the future, we could reach those kids and really do a good job of increasing and meeting our goal on the number of students meeting or exceeding the 530 benchmark. So we talked about the approaching cohort, and when you broke down the 2019 test data, right, we were pretty strong in the heart of algebra. We were pretty strong in the passport to advanced math and the problem solving and data. But these are 2 areas where, although our percentages were pretty high, when you really break it down, these are the 2 areas, especially problem solving and data, that if we were to get 6 or 7 more questions in that category, our test scores would jump dramatically. So our ultimate goal is to find a way to get students to reach a 75% or better on all of the Tier 1 questions that I labeled in the 2019 practice exam. With that in mind, if you have any questions on the course or you'd like to play around with it, let me know and I could add you to it. All right. Thank you for your time.